Everyone will come back to the table if we're in the room. The Mayor has asked for D4, investigating the provision of aquatic facilities at a much lower cost, both in terms of build and ongoing maintenance. He has said that he would support the overall if we put that in. I personally, and Councillor Ferry is fine with putting that in. It will come back to us with what the actual costs are, but of course we'll be doing everything. And I expect also that that will show what the aquatic provision is as part of those costs. If a local board or a local area wants indoor courts as well to come together, so using the same car park, the same changing rooms, the same admin block, whatever, then that might make sense. But I think we need to really delineate the cost of the aquatic part so we don't try and make it seem bigger than Ben-Hur when maybe it's not. And then we can add provision if we need to through that conversation. But cool. Thank you. Right, we will now go to, I prefer to speak at the end if that's okay, so I'll go to Councillor Henderson first.
Thank you, Chair. That's great. Cool. Look, firstly, just thank staff for their strong partnership in this business case and this program. Garth, in particular, I have to shout out, has been amazing, and I'm very glad that we have him working on this issue. And it's an issue that sparks real passion in West Auckland, and I've brought this photo up. This is a line out the door in West Wave. This is normal. This is practically every day, especially weekends and holidays. You can see it stretching into the car park there. The scary thing is that this photo is from 2019. So this is 7-8 years ago, and the situation has only gotten worse. The population has only increased, and the provision has only sort of continued to decline. Thank you, Chair. For at least 10 years, probably more, the residents of the Northwest area have been lobbying for a public swimming pool. And I say Northwest, that's not just the Waitakere ward, it's not just a specific ward issue, it's the communities of Massey, Red Hills, Westgate, Swanson, Kumeu, Whenuapai, Hobsonville, all across that kind of area. And at present, West Wave is the only swimming pool in West Auckland with a catchment area of 180,000 people. Pressure on that facility has increased year on year. Annual visitation is at 1.2 million people. Isn't that amazing? And I've seen data which says that a majority of those people are not even from West Auckland because it has sporting facilities that go there and these kinds of things. And so, goodness, the provision for the community has gotten worse and worse. And as you saw in that photo, the physical configuration of the building shows lines going out into the car park area, creating huge health and safety risks with kids running around. The summer heat is absolutely insane. I've personally been in the line many, many, many times, waiting for over an hour with my 2 young kids, and that's pretty tough entertaining them out there. Sadly, my kids don't want to go there that much anymore because of those waits, and it's a very important part and a cherished memory of their childhood. So that's a very sad thing, and I'm sure that many West Auckland families have the same experience. So the Northwest Pool, I'll just talk you through a little bit of the history of it. A consistent advocacy item for the Henderson Massey local board. It was the board's one local initiative in the 2016 term. It was the only one local initiative in the city not to be included in the first 10 years of the LTP. Thank you. In 2019, we finally secured funding and completion of an indicative business case that included a rough site selection and costings. 2 sites were identified that were both council-owned land. And as I'll talk about in a little bit, using land we already own is a good starting point to keep costs down. And if we can partner with NZTA closely on the busway project, that's even better. That'll help keep costs down as well. In 2022 term, we were successful in finally bringing the Northwest Pool into the first decade of the LTP. And I really want to thank you all, colleagues and Mayor, for agreeing to that. For bringing $300,000 forward for a detailed business case, the writing of which started yesterday, which is very exciting for us, and $14.8 million for progress of the pool from FY30. This lobbying was only successful because the community is strong and united behind the project. We've established a Northwest Aquatic Working Group to deal with council and outside stakeholders and the public as it goes. We have 4 local boards represented there. I've got the Deputy Chair of the Henderson Massey local board behind me that's on that body. We have active, we have staff, and we have Toia Waitakere, which used to be Sport Waitakere, on there as well. the pool is considered, funnily enough, a top 3 issue, I think, for the Northwest. So you talk about cost of living, you talk about transport, you talk about these big issues in society. If you go on Dornoch and Massey, as I have, they will tell you we need a pool, and we need it desperately. Unfortunately, the mood of the community is cynical, and they need clear direction from this council so that they can believe that it will actually happen. A council that has not conceived of, designed, and built a pool in its entire history. Since amalgamation, we've had 2 builds, both of them legacy projects, Albany and Otahuhu. So they're lacking a little bit in belief, and I think we need to give them that belief, and I think for that reason we need to support these things, but I've got a couple of things to point out as well. In terms of targeted rates, been discussion about that, and I do need to point out the residents of the Northwest are currently paying for renewal and for OPEX costs of pools all across the region that they do not have access to. Any targeted rate, which I don't support at this stage, should be led by a local board process. And so I'll be abstaining on D3 with respect, Chair. The Mayor spoke about keeping costs down in this project, and it's led to D4. And I've got to say, I totally agree. I totally agree. We have 15 million in the LTP, and the vision for a Northwest pool, for what it is no bells and whistles. A staged approach. We're stage 1, we get a pool in the ground now. Can someone move an extension of time, please? Thank you. We get a pool in the ground now, cheap as possible. We put a shell over the top, and we leave some land for stage 2, 3, and 4 as the community continues to grow. That makes sense, right? I think we just need to deliver it and get started. We need to be a council that gets stuff done. We go around the country. We go past these small towns, a couple of thousand people in the town. They have a swimming pool. For 100,000 Northwest Aucklanders, we can't seem to do it. That is a black mark on this council, frankly, and it's something that I will be revisiting over and over, and you'll get very sick of my voice in the coming LTP. But just to wrap up, I'll be approaching that conversation in the LTP with a strong demand that we deliver a pool for the residents of the Northwest as quick as possible, as cheaply as possible. They have waited for far too long. Thank you, Chair.
Kia ora, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Sayers.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Look, I support the Mayor's addition there of D4, because it's not just these pools, it's everything seems to be so many extra zeros on top of it. Just how we cut through the bureaucracy and get down to getting things cheaper, faster. I'm finding it difficult to crack that nut, and I know a number of people around the table will be feeling the same way, including His Worship. It's a tough one, so we must absolutely focus on doing that. So I think it's a worthwhile recommendation to support. Also, obviously, D3, I'm very supportive of as well. It's the only way that some of our communities, including the Warkworth community, can bring forward from 30 years plus out an aquatic facility. And it's really important for the children up there. Now, they want to learn how to swim. It's important that they do for obvious reasons. So what that does do is it gives the opportunity now for local boards to consider a targeted rate. And a targeted rate is an additional cost on top of the general rates. But the community can analyse for themselves if they think there's value in money for paying extra to get a pool 30 years ahead of the scheduled time. And we need to put those options out to our communities for their consideration. So I'll certainly be following up with the Rodney Local Board to do what they need to do in terms of their own recommendations to get that work underway. And obviously, probably the finance policy rating people will need to talk to you about, costings, etc., Louise. So thank you for that. The target rates mustn't just include the cost of the build, though. We need to include into that target rate the cost of ongoing OPEX and renewals as well. So I'm not suggesting, well, I'll be suggesting to my local board that the targeted rate needs to include OPEX and renewals, not just the build cost as well. And finally, I'll go back to, running parallel with this was the discussion that we had about private investment coming into a township and apparently withdrawing because of the costs that were being imposed by council entities. So I want to thank you, Chair, for your guidance on how that might be able to be advanced, and for the staff that will pick that up. And I'm very much looking forward to a report that can come back to an open report that could come back to myself and the Rodney Local Board about why that roadblock exists and how it can be overcome, because we would like to share that openly with the public as well, so they understand exactly what's going on in that area. So on that note, I'll close, but I do thank my colleagues around the table for their support in today's discussions as well. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Patterson-Hamlin.
Kia ora. Just to recap, for anyone who is unsure as to where I might be coming from on this, there is no pool in Faux. There are 28 council pools over 19 wards, and Faux and Rodney are not covered. Faux is not an inconsequential little area. Deputy Chair from Henderson Massey is here. We've got a member of the Faux local board here. That should tell you something, that 2 of those local board members are here today. Faux is roughly the size of New Plymouth. How many pools does New Plymouth have? 5. It's growing. It's going to grow more than some of these other areas that do have council pools, do have access to backyard pools and swimmable beaches, none of which we have access to. Whichever of these options is taken, Faux pool is prioritised, and I thank everyone for the acknowledgement that this project cannot be deferred again. It was promised for completion in 2014, and in 2014 we were doing the Ice Bucket Challenge, there was a referendum on Scottish independence, and Trump was only a president on The Simpsons. West Auckland having 25% of the population, I think I've got a graph maybe if it got to Sandra in time, but being expected to take on more intensification than the East and North and PC 120, and to continue to have 2% of the council pool provision, West Wave, is untenable. This is also an area with high Māori and Pacifica populations who have the highest fatal drowning rates per capita in the country. And someone asked at some point, what are the barriers for Māori and Pacifica? And I think staff said they were going to go look into it. Not having a pool. Don't overthink it. I mean, I saw it time and again over the holidays. The Faux local board partnered with Avondale Intermediate and a couple of other local schools. And I was the only Pākehā whānau there. There is the need. It is relatively easy to meet. And in terms of talk of targeted rates, Faux is already paying one because the local board is spending $48,000, $50,000 a year to enable that over the summer access to those local school pools. And that's not a cost that other local boards are having to bear. I'm sure some people who visit the harbour pool were from Kelston, and that's great. I'm sure some visitors to the future Faux pool will come from the CBD. But what I'm willing to bet is that those ones visiting the harbour pool weren't families, weren't people with additional access needs, and were probably a very small percentage of the total Faux population. It's a network. This is a network look. And look, I've got nothing against harbour pools as a concept. I actually think they're a great concept. They were how my siblings were able to swim in South Africa without worrying about the sharks. But the reality is that they do require a pretty specific set of circumstances to work, and those circumstances do not exist in Faux or some of the other areas identified for prioritisation here. This actually came up at the Pacific People's Panel last night. The tenor of that conversation was when a core council service is missing from only 2 wards in the city where others have multiple, and that service is promised year upon year for decades and not deliver it, that eats away at the relationship that people have with all of local government. And as for talk of targeted rates, I mean, for how long have ratepayers in Faux and Rodney been paying for pools they can't access because they weren't in the areas that made sense to legacy councils? And that's fine, it's a regional approach, but it is the reality. Faux have effectively had a targeted rate for 4 years with papering over that massive gap, and the DCs have gone down this kind of whirlpool to pay for this eventual pool for years and years and years. We can't keep deferring it. We have been paying for it time and again. And at this point, Carole, pardon moi, mais c'est une piscine, c'est pas une piscine de la faux. À ce moment-là, c'est un piscine faux. Un blague justement pour toi. Anyway, back to Europe. During European heatwaves, swimming pools play a critical role as essential climate shelters for public health. So they reduce heat stress, they lower the number of emergency medical calls by 15 to 29%. And our climate is warming, we can feel it every summer. And it's for pure relief that a lot of those whānau I saw using Avondale Intermediate Pool were using it. They're a place of meeting and connection as well, for physical rehabilitation and for youth manaki. Now, a youth hub is a big aspiration for Faux that maybe we'll never get to, but a pool can fill that gap. It would be unthinkable for a town of 90,000 people not to have pool provision. And just like it or not, this is one of these things that councils are expected to do particularly large ones like us. And if we don't take this comprehensive regional overarching view now, we're going to end up with a bunch more situations like FO all over the region, and it's going to be more expensive, and it's going to hurt Auckland's relationship with its local government going forwards. So I'll be voting in support of this. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Newman.
Yeah, look, thank you, Chair. For me, and look, I'll vote for this, but one of the things that's going to be absolutely critical in reporting back on this, because an aquatics network program business case, it invites a conversation about new things that we can do to fill gaps, and we've just had a formidable advocacy from the previous speaker about her ward, which I completely understand. Quite frankly, I am nervous about the cost of the maintenance and the renewal of the existing suite of aquatic facilities that we have, and I want to ensure that the report back on this accurately identifies what these core costs are. Thank goodness we fund depreciation, or we're moving to, because I mean, this is obviously going to be one part of the network where there are going to be quite a significant renewal costs that need to be fully understood by everybody around this table who casts a vote on these things, because this isn't just about the new, this is about the maintenance of our existing networks, which will be expensive. Chair, my request actually in supporting these, the recommendations is that in relation to the priority areas that have already been identified, is to work out what are the updated costings that will trigger the development contributions, because quite frankly, I suspect actually the growth costs for these locations will need to be revised, and probably in a couple of locations increased. 90% development contributions allocated to Drury sounds about right to me, but I want to make sure that those costs are fully quantified so that the levies can be so that we can ensure that the developers are paying their fair share. The other thing I would say, Chair, is that I truly believe that if we are moving to a rate cap scenario, and I think we are, that beyond option one, I don't know how some of this is going to be afforded. It just, these numbers are so big that it feels to me like we will either have to look to try and negotiate with central government around a different funding tools for some of this, or we might end up having to accept that there are just equity gaps that are never going to be resolved, because I don't frankly know what other cuts to our existing networks we can achieve in order to try and make room for the kind of quantum of costs which has been flagged in some of these other options. Even option one's going to be expensive. I want to thank the officers for bringing this report forward, but Chair, I really do, through you, want to stress that the cost of the maintenance of our existing network needs to be of equal importance, not just about the new stuff that people want, but the cost of these facilities, because it's pretty significant. Thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Turner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I was listening to some of the Mayor's questions as I came in. He holds the absolute key to this, the cost. We're coming up with eye-watering figures for these sorts of infrastructure projects. They're eye-watering in the private sector because most people are rolling around laughing till they cry. The contracting sector, the tears are because of the pain where they claw at each other to get a piece of the action. My fellow councillor, Councillor Henderson, has been campaigning for a pool in our area for a long time. He's right over this subject. He made a really good presentation there about where it sits, how we could do it in stages. And I remember him talking some time ago, if I'm correct, about costs of pools in places like Kaitaia and other places, where they do them for like 10% of the value we're talking about here. We could have our pool in the Faux, which should be first because it's been on the books so long for the West, but I'm really supportive of Councillor Henderson's push and initiative, which he's campaigned on and been pushing for ages. We could do it all if we kept the cost sensible. And, to Councillor Newman, depreciation isn't the answer to everything. Cost is the answer to everything. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor. Thank you. Member Wilson.
Thank you. I didn't really understand or comprehend this was going to take a lot longer in terms of what was anticipated here, which was the investigation of all of the things that have been suggested in the subsequent. But we are here where we are. Just to address specifically D3, the rest, I guess we would have been happy with. It's got into investigating again in D3. It's more how it's positioned there, I guess. And local opportunity, it mentions such things as targeted rates, which has been a really, in terms of Māngere o Tāhu local board and o Tarapapatoa local board, where they themselves suffered the notion of a targeted special rate to cover the cost of pools, libraries and the like. And luckily through the Mayor's office that was temporarily halted, and there's some appreciation. Whenever I see targeted rate in terms of a recommendation, it does make me quite nervous. Now, if it had just stopped there, if it had said targeted rate and other measures, I probably would have thought, yes, that's a good way forward in terms of it's not the only thing, but as it sits there, it looks like the only option that should be considered, and I would not like the team to think that that's something they should concentrate on, because I favour the notion of many options rather than the one option. And then the notion of specificity around option 4 and naming a specific area. I would like to think the team that is doing this work understands that it is, everyone has a different viewpoint, and it should be looked in the same lens that I described before, equity lens. And for that only, won't be supporting that part in terms of 4. That should have gone right at the top. Absolutely acknowledge that, Mayor, but I thought that it would be sufficiently covered within the recommendations, but if it isn't that obvious, well, it is obvious now, and therefore support that part of the amendments. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Member Wilson. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, traditionally pools are the most expensive things we build and the most expensive things we operate. And I guess what concerns me, I wasn't going to say anything, but what concerns me is that we so quickly dive into basically each local board has to have their own pool, and each, and so the purpose of these network plans is to show where we've got a need, and really it shouldn't have any bearing at all on what local board it's in. It is there to serve the wider Auckland, and so people should be able to travel. And so I just get worried that we do it with other facilities as well. We start to dive into, there's got to be equity across local board areas. Well, there doesn't. It just, people expect us to, take their rates and use it wisely and create a network. And this is what this was all about. This is the why. And I guess the how is to how we do it, because everyone wants to do it cheaper and faster and all that stuff. That's the how. That's the long-term plan discussion. That's the setting the budgets for this sort of stuff. I'm pleased to see that we recognise the ability to partner with people to do all sorts of things. You can have people who operate them, who take on the operating costs. We can partner with developers who are prepared to put in and build, and we lease You know, we don't have to provide everything. We don't have to be the provider of all facilities. There are plenty of people out there who are prepared to do that. So I'm going to support this. I want to see these network plans. I mean, I think our map should just reverse, take out all of the local board boundaries and just put in where we should have facilities like this. Because as soon as, if we don't do that, we just instantly sit around this table and local boards battle against each other, and it's what drives our thinking. When actually we're just here to make decisions for Auckland, and it doesn't matter what local board a facility sits in. So I just, pleased to see this carry on. We've got a bit of work to do to find different ways of doing stuff, and this sort of indicates there's a bit of a willingness to do that.
Kia ora, Councillor. Mayor Brown.
Okay, thanks very much. It's been a long, winding road, this debate. And I feel a lot better about it having a bit, talking about much lower cost. I mean, the quote in there at $16,000 a square metre is more than the cost of the Park Hyatt Hotel. And I don't think we had it in mind that it would be like that. As long as number D4 actually also affects A, which is the 4 existing pools, I mean, I just want this cost thing to be thought right through. We've got to watch out for scope creep. As soon as we put in a pool, we have to have all these other things upstairs and added on. It's a bloody pool. And it should be staying as a pool. And if those other things want to be there, sometimes, and I get this, the thing, you have to have a provision everywhere. The next things will be deciding that everyone has to have a cinema. Everyone has to have a shopping complex. The market is working out that they put them where enough people are to go to. And so I don't want the people to feel picked on because it doesn't have to be particularly one and foul. But there are, I mean, God didn't provide nice beaches there either, but still people live there. And so we want to have a practical availability across the region for most people, most of these things. But we've spent a lot of money on public transport, and to alleviate and I think that keeping the cost down is the best way to make sure that disadvantaged communities are available for that, because otherwise just everything will be built in Hauraki. And that's not what I had in mind. So I think that I want to make sure that even if it's not up there, that there's pressure on staff to keep working with the education department who own most of the pools in the district. And they're not used. And I know that and Kerikeri has a wonderful pool because the government and the council jointly adhere to the running costs, and the pool gets it up till 4 in the afternoon and the public have it after 4 and on Saturdays and Sundays. And they're the same people actually. And that gets around some of the operating costs which are due to over safety requirements. You have to have lifeguards for a bloody pool that's 1,200 mils deep, for goodness. We're interfering with natural selection. The bit about targeted rates is that targeted rates, well, we don't have them on every beach actually, but targeted rates does show what they really want, what would they pay for, because there's a huge gap between what people would be prepared to pay for and what they want. And if you go and ask everybody what do you want, of course they want a wave pool in there as well. They want all these other things. And we now got a wave pool for bugger all out there, and we're competing with a wave pool up North Shore. It's just going to cost you quite a bit to go in. And so overall, I can just about bring myself to vote for this now, but we've got to know that better, cheaper, faster isn't just a slogan. It's what is the actual value of providing that service. And to even think of $100 million for a pool is unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee. Kia ora.
Thank you. It would be nice to get acknowledgement when one has one's hand up. But anyway, thank you. I think this issue inadvertently puts a finger on the fundamental problem that this council has with its financial management, and that is the sheer cost of, in this case, swimming pools. When you think about it, they are not particularly high-tech, and they're largely filled with water. But anyway, the problem here is, since the advent of the so-called super city, with its massive funding, I think we've made one swimming pool, correct me if I'm wrong, in Albany. And I think that was planned under the Legacy North Shore City Council, and nothing else. And why is this? And part of the problem is the affordability question. And so I think what is missing from the report is, why is it that the legacy councils could build so many pools? I'm just thinking of Glen Innes, for instance, in Panmure. The Mount Wellington Borough Council back in the 60s built two significant swimming pools from their very modest rates income. So what is going wrong? And I think the Mayor and Councillor Turner realise there's something strange about the cost of these things. And I think what is missing from this report, and it would apply across the board, so it'd be a useful exercise, is some independent investigation of why the hell could it be affordable under the legacy days with those councils, borough councils, they could actually provide swimming pools to their very limited number of ratepayers, and for everyone outside that particular area as well if they chose, and we can't do it ourselves. Why is that? And it applies across the board. And I think we need to come to grips with this problem and don't avoid it saying, oh, well, it's all about, we'll get someone else to pay for it, get the government, get the private sector, have a targeted rate. That's all cost problems. That's all supply side, not demand side, not the cost issue. We need to sort out the cost issue as a primary problem because it applies right across the board, and it's really why, despite all sorts of promises, Auckland Council is not being fixed. We don't have a revenue problem, we have an expenditure problem. We're not getting value for money, and we need to do something about it. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Filipaina.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Look, Louise, to you, to your team, in particular, Koro, thank you so much for the report. Councillor Baker covered a little bit of what I wanted to say, and that is the how. I know that there are some people around this table that get tired of me always talking about evidence-based decision making, and this particular item is going to be evidence-based because it's going to come back to us for a decision around where our aquatic facilities need to be. So to Louise, your team, Koro, just thank you so much, and all those involved within council. Hermana, I just wanted to also acknowledge yourself, Councillor Ferry, the Deputy Chair, because I know you've been, again, both have been working behind the scenes to accommodate people that have contacted you personally and Councillor Ferry in regards to the recommendations. So, ngā mihi kia kōrua to you both. Our fire, Karen Wilson, ended up mentioning again some of the stuff I wish to say. That is about the ability for the local boards to put in a targeted rate. So the option that you've included in both yourself and the Deputy Chair's recommendation, again, I will be supporting, because the targeted rate that in the Manuka ward that both Councillor Lotufuli and I represent, they have from the beginning put their targeted rate in regards to our respective pools. Also acknowledge, and this is my last whakaaro to this particular item, I just want to also acknowledge Councillor Henderson, to you and your predecessor, as well as Councillor Patterson Hamlin, and everybody involved. And Councillor Sayers, I remember you, I think when you first got onto council, pushing for a pull out your ways, and you and the rest of the councillors are pushing it. I will be supporting the recommendations, as I said earlier, and also at this stage, the recommendations to continue to go with the 4 areas that we're looking at. And that's because I know the reports coming back to the governing body, to the policy committee, is going to be evidence-based. So ngā mihi kia koutou katoa, and thank you, Herman. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Councillor. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Because I'm going to close it off after me. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Yes, this I appreciate the team for working on this. It is a tough one. We do have issues of provision across Auckland. Public school pools, there is a massive issue there. So there's been about a reduction of half of all school pools since I was a kid. So schools all over Auckland and New Zealand are closing. Out of 16 regions, we're the 4th lowest. So we have only 40% of our schools have pools now, whereas up in Northland Mere, 85% of schools have pools. So it's quite a discrepancy in our city, and that comes down to the Ministry of Education generally not funding or allowing schools to fund the costs. So they're closing them, but they're definitely not building them. So we do have a provision issue in Auckland compared to other parts. The only ones below us, I think, are Wellington and Otago. So we are among the lowest out of 16. The other issues looking across Australia, they're all sitting at about $100 million for a pool. 68 is the lowest I could find. The North Sydney outdoor pool is getting a $122 million upgrade. Of course, there's heritage things there. But if you look, Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales, they're all about $100 million. One had a $48 million blowout, so please try and avoid that. But, you know, so we are looking at similar costs for large aquatic facilities, disappointingly. But I will look at the Nainai pool as an example. Yes, they had government funding, I think about 27 million, but the Nainai pool in Hutt City, that took about a 3-year turnaround from closure in 2019 to opening 23 or 24. It was 68 million, but that did include the fitness space, hydroslides, things like that. So I think to the Mayor's point, we need to know what is Rolls-Royce aquatic facility, what is, you know, and I grew up with hydroslides at the Glenfield pool, they're pretty cool, but, you know, we need to know what is actually needed and what is optional, and to give the community an idea of that. So if we're talking about averages, and we're talking about hydroslides, fitness centres, outdoor courts, as well as a pool facility, then maybe we should just be talking about the pool facility so we get an idea of what that actual cost is. Because I think we're trying to conflate too much. On the other hand, it might make a lot of sense to use the same bit of land with the same car park, the same changing rooms, the same admin space, the same cafe, to have a couple of indoor courts, because we've got a massive issue with the lack of indoor courts as well. The issue in New Zealand, we have one of the highest drowning statistics in the world, in the OECD, nearly double Australia, much higher than Canada and the UK. Don't know if that's to do with our lack of aquatic facilities, but clearly it probably is a piece of the puzzle. We have millions and millions of lessons each year in our public pools. You know, I've got a 4-year-old son. He loves the beach, but he cannot and has not learnt confidence and has not learnt how to swim at the beach. It's been in a small pool in a public facility with teachers, you know, and that's given him great confidence to run, you know, headfirst into the waves, and that's great. But, you know, there are things that we need public pools for. It's great that option 2 and 3 include those harbour pools. I think that the harbour pool, you know, I think some people were a bit of a sceptic of the Karanga Plaza pool. It has been super popular for events, for people of all ages. It's really cool to go down there in the summer and see it all going on, but it is low numbers overall as a city, but we could do that. But I think it's a transition to a pool like that once you've got your confidence in some of our facilities. There's also water polo, diving, a bunch of swimming. We've had some Olympic swimmers and Commonwealth Games swimmers in our time. They start learning in our council pools usually and move forward to maybe ocean swimming and things like that. So I think our facilities that provide spaces for community at different times of their lives, older people, aqua aerobics, things like that, that's not really happening at Piha, let's say, in the waves there. But I think this will help us, have that sort of moment where we go, shoot, this is a lot of money. What's it going to cost? There's a lot of requests around this table and around local boards of we'd like more, but not often a hand up to go, but we're happy to put the rates up higher. But it will help us claim or have a plan for DCs and growth charges. We just don't have a good way to get good projects in the list to actually charge DCs for. A lot of people don't realise we need to be planning so far ahead to be able to lock in a good costed project to apply for DCs and growth charges from the next lot of developments in our city. So I think this is good, it's straightforward, it will bring us back all those ins and outs. A lot of work for the team to do. We are trying to narrow it down with 2 and 3, but granted there may be local boards who put forward a bit of money to go, can you scope up a possibility for us for 5-10 years away. So I think this is important to our community, but I thank you all for the debate today and the ability to change some of the recommendations. We'll take it as a whole, but of course you can note your opposition to a point if you'd like. Please let the team know so that's officially recorded. So all those in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. So overall I'll say it's unanimous, but I know there'll be people who want to note their... Yeah. Are there anyone who would like to note their opposition? Cool. So Councillor Gillen...
Chair, abstention on D3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on. So
Yeah.
Councillor Henderson, you'd like an abstention
on
D3.
D3.
We've got Councillor Gillen would like opposition to A and B.
And Chair, thank you. If I could just note opposition to A and B as well.
Okay. Councillor Sayers opposition to A and B. A and B. Right. D3 for Member Wilson.
Thank you.
Cool.
Could I abstention on D3 also, please?
Abstention D3 for Councillor Patterson-Hammer. Cool. Right. Thank you. Well, we are at 5-1, so we'll come back at 1:40 for from lunch. Thank you.